Hey guys, this is Ahmed. Welcome to my class Python for Beginners. So last time we learned about programs and languages at a very high level. Now it's time to dig into Python. Today's class is called Variables, Expressions and Statements Part 1. Part 1 because this class is actually divided into two parts. This is the part 1. The next one will be the second part. And so let's get started. So that's the first thing which you should know are values and data types. So for today's class we'll be mostly using the Python shell and not trying to create a new file there. So let's just open our Python shell. See, so from last time you remember you could type in hello world and we print hello world. Okay, cool. So coming to values and data types. A value is one of the fundamental things, like a letter or a string like hello world, or a number like the number 5. This number 5, it's a value. String hello world, it's a value again. Okay, now these values like hello world and 5, these belong to different data types. So what is a data type? Now when you see a number 5, you know a number 5 is an integer, right? You can also have negative numbers here, -5. So these things, the numbers are called integer data types. Because they are integers, they are of the type integer. Makes sense. Similarly, hello world is a string. We refer to these sentences like things which are placed in quotes or double quotes. These are called strings because they are made out of characters, so it's called a string of characters. So yeah, the strings are identified by quotation marks. Strings can either be placed in single quote marks or they can be placed in double quote marks. Like you can also say hello world, close in single quotes. Okay. These are two of the data types you've seen, integer and string. You might be confused, you're not sure what the type of a value is. So for this, Python provides you with a nice tool or a function to which you pass an argument and it tells you what type it is. So if you say type hello world, it will show you it's of a type string. str stands for string. If you say type 5, it's type int. If you say type -5, oops, type -5, that's an int again. If you say type a, this is the single character a, that's also a type string. Okay, now coming to some big numbers. Let's say you want to have a number like 1700, 70,000. So it's 70,000, and if you say what's the type of 70,000, take a quick guess. I think you would have guessed that it's an integer, and it is an integer. So sometimes you might be tempted to write 17,000, it's something like 17 comma 3 zeros, like the way you used to write in your copies and all. But this is not going to work. This will actually give you 17 and a 0 because the comma, the print assumes, the print sees the comma and it thinks you want to actually print out two quantities. First is 17 and then the 0. And it's actually not true. You want to print 17,000, so you just say 17,000 without any commas. and the type is an int, as you have seen. Okay, now less obviously numbers with decimal point. Let's say you have a number of, I will say a type of number like 17.2. It's a decimal number, but computers do not understand decimal. So and Python, they don't call it decimal. They actually call it a float. So it is called a float because decimal numbers are represented in computer in the form of a floating point. Yeah, and that's why they are called floating point numbers. So the values like 17.3, 17.2, 3.5, they are the type float. But I don't know if this gets confused or not, but if you enclose 17.2 inside the quotes, what type should it be now? Well, I've told you that anything in a quote or a double quote is of a type string. So if you hit enter now, it will give you a type string. So guys, do not get confused. If you see anything between quotes or double quotes, that's of a string type. Yeah. And well, so the cool thing about Python is you can have strings which are enclosed in single quotes can have double quotes inside them, and the strings that have double quotes can have single quotes inside them. So you can say print, hey, my name is I don't know. See, in other languages, if you have this kind of a string, you have to escape the single quotes and somehow escape the double quotes and stuff like that. But there's also another thing that if you put a string inside triple quotes, then you can either have a single quote or a double quote or anything. Let's say you say I have a friend named me something. He's Tom. Let's see. So there you have a string which has both single quotes and double quotes. The cool thing is, if you have a string enclosed in 3 triple quotes, then you can have either single quotes inside it or double quotes inside it. Okay guys, so let's move on to our next topic today. It's variables. Now variables, yes, in the last class we talked about making your computer remember something. That's what a variable will do for you. So variable is the name that refers to a value. So if you say a variable n is equal to 17, what does this mean? This means that the variable n has been assigned a value of 17. So now if you say print n, the computer knows that the value of n has been assigned a value of 17, and now whenever you wish to refer to this value 17, you can use the value n. So if you say print n, it will print you 17. Similarly, you can say message equals to hello world. Oops. Hello world. And now you can say print message, it will print hello world. So that's another way of printing the string hello world. You can assign it to a variable message, and that message will always hold the quantity hello world unless you assign to it something else later on in the program. So message would now be, say something like, okay, take the example of n was 17, so you do a print n here, it gives you 17. Now we change it to 15. Now do a print n, and it will give you 15. So it's the last assigned value to the variable is printed, can be accessed using the name of the variable. Okay, it might sound a bit confusing. N equals 50, that's a mathematical notation, but in a programming sense, n equals to 15 is to be interpreted something like n has been assigned the value 15. So you have an arrow from 15 to n, which means that the value 15 has been assigned to the variable n. So you cannot have something that looks like 15 equals to n. That's an error. Can't assign to a literal. No, literal is a value. You can't assign something to a number 15, can you? It doesn't make sense, right? So 15 equals to n. If you say 15 equals to n, that would imply 15 is assigned the value n. But 15 is 15, right? You can't assign a value 17 to 15. Similarly, you can't assign, let's say you say somebody's name is Amit, but you can't say Amit is the name, because Amit is somebody's name, right? It goes the other way, and Amit is just a name. You can assign Amit to me, but you couldn't assign me to Amit. Does that make sense? Maybe not so much, but you'll get the hang of it. So the right side of the quantity, so the right side of this expression, name equal to Amit, implies that, so right side of this expression, which is Amit, has been assigned to the left side of the expression, which is name. I hope you understand this concept. So these variable names, the values that I've used, like name, message, or n, programmers generally choose names for their variables that are meaningful, like name or message, and not something like ABC equals to Amit. You know, doesn't make much sense, though it still does the job really. So variable names can be arbitrarily long. They can contain both letters and numbers. So you can have name 892 is equal to Amit, but you can't have something like 9 name equals Amit. That's an error, my friend. Sorry, 2 errors there actually. Name equal to syntax error, because the variable's name should always begin with a letter. It can have letters and numbers, only letters and numbers, and not some illegal characters, but it must begin with a letter. And names are case sensitive, guys. So name equals to Amit and name equals to Gupta are two different things. So if you print name, that's Gupta. If you print name, that's Amit. So names are case sensitive. Also, the underscore character can appear in a name, like what's my name equals to Amit. Yeah. So you can make use of the underscore character to, you know, add more meaning to your variable name. So if you give an illegal name, it will throw you an error, just like we got this error syntax or invalid syntax. Similarly, if you declare a name, declare a variable name like name dollar is equal to Amit, that's an invalid syntax. Dollar is an illegal character because a variable always needs to have either a letter or a number. Okay, so I give you a tricky example here. Let's say you have a variable named class and you assign the word Amit. It says invalid syntax, and you're wondering why. Why would class give you an invalid syntax? Turns out that class is one of the Python keywords. Keywords define the language's rule and structure, and they cannot be used as variable names. So Python has around 31 keywords, and you might want to keep this list handy. It's there in the PDF for this lecture. So in case the interpreter complains about one of your variable names and you don't know why, see if it's on this list. Okay. So moving on to the next part, guys, it's about statements. A statement is an instruction that the Python interpreter can execute. So we have seen two kinds of statements. We have seen the print statement and we have seen the assignment statement. Assignment statement was when he said n equals 15 or message equals hello world. The print statement when he said print message or print hello world. So when you type a statement on the command line, Python executes it and displays the result if there is one, right? So you have a statement, let's say a equals to 5, nothing gets printed, but if you say print a, then you print the value 5. Okay, so the result of a print statement is a value, and assignment statements don't produce a result. A program, we talked about programs, right? So a program, we said, was a sequence of statements. So if there is more than one statement, the results appear one at a time as statements are executed. For example, you can have print 1 followed by x equals 2 followed by print x. Now it prints the value 2. So your program can have these three lines print together. Next time I'll try to do this in a file when you have these three instructions, and then, or rather, let me show you right now. So go to a new file, say print 1, say x equals 2, then you say print x. So this is your tiny little program. This is our second program. So I'll name it 2.py, and I'll hit the run. You see 1 and 2. So it's executed one by one. First it prints 1, then x gets assigned the value 2, then it prints x, which is 2. So guys, this is part 1 of the lecture on variables, expressions and statements. We'll continue next time. See you around.